long
cottage stuff, right?
dissertation about the history of the permit. Did
Yeah,
you see
I saw
that?
that,
Okay.
yeah.
Are these two separate? Are these is the same thing ever?
No, this is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Newly revised.
Got it.
There are
Okay.
two
Yep.
revisions after
it.
meeting with Charlie.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. So seeing that the Mashpee Planning Board has quorum, and it's 7 o'clock, the chair opens up the meeting of the Mashpee Planning Board Wednesday, March 4th, 2020, here at Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North, in the Wacoyet Meeting Room, Mashpee, Massachusetts. I just want to welcome everybody here tonight, remind you that we're being videographed and recorded. If you have the opportunity to address the board, please do so at one of the microphones. State your name and your comment. I'd like to now invite everybody to rise and join with me in stating the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next order of business is meeting minutes of February 19th. Does anybody have any edits? You weren't there? They're very good, thank you, because we were doing a difficult task. We were finalizing the local comprehensive plan survey. So seeing no comments, I'd take a motion to accept the minutes of February 19th as presented.
So be.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anybody, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Abstain.
Anybody, okay, one abstention, okay. We have a public hearing at 7:10 in about 6 minutes. I think we'll skip down to approval not required. It's my understanding that the project proponent is not here tonight. The applicant is Jonathan Bernstein, trustee of 16 Papaneset Island Road Realty Trust. Location is 16 and 24 Papaneset Island Road, map 105, lot 264, and map 105, lot 265. The request is to adjust a property line between the two houses. We received an email dated March 4th from Michael McGrath, from Holmes and McGrath, regarding the pending A&R. And what the project proponent, Michael McGrath, is asking is that we accept the application tonight and put it on the agenda for March 18th. Do I have that correct? Town planner? Okay. So is that okay with, because the Mylar is not ready.
Okay.
So they're going to come back on the 18th. And I believe that we're within our 21 days to act. Okay, that's okay with everybody? The chair will put that on the
Yes,
18th?
fine.
Okay. We have about 5 more minutes. Can we skip to the APA membership invoice?
Need a signature.
So do we have an invoice for our memberships?
Yes, we do. So this renews memberships from the previous year for Dennis and Mary. And then I believe, remind me who is opting back in. We had 1, 2, 3. David Whedon is now no longer a member, so Joe, Jack, and Rob, is that right? So the total invoice is for $461.
So I'd accept a motion to authorize the expense of $461 for our APA memberships for this year.
So be.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, so we'll sign it. Yeah, there's a really, I was surprised how much I like the magazine.
Yeah, it's really has some good stuff in it.
I was surprised.
And I don't have a batch cover sheet, so I'm gonna have to print one for people to sign later.
Okay,
This one?
all right. How about Charlie's invoice for February 2020?
That we have.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Charlie's submitted his invoice for services in February 2020, the total amount of $1,190.
And what, it's for probably a couple meetings, what else?
This is for inspections at Phase 3 of the cottages at New Seabury, plan review of the Phase 4 submission for the cottages at New Seabury, and a staff meeting with the town planner at Town Hall,
And what was the total?
$1,190.
Okay, I'd accept a motion to approve paying Charlie $1,190.
So be.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'd like to skip old business and chairman's report and go to the board member committee reports. Anything on the Cape Cod Commission, Joe?
Cape Cod Commission, which I'm sure, the only big one, which I'm sure you're very aware of, is tomorrow, there'll be a public hearing at 3 PM for the hearing regarding the Mashpee Commons Notice of Intent to Enter Development Agreement. And, yeah, that's the only big thing for Cape Cod Commission right now.
Is anybody planning on going?
What's that?
I'll be going.
3 PM, oh.
Here?
No, it's, I believe, actually, I don't know, I believe it's at the.
At the county.
I'm assuming,
County
yeah.
complex.
Yeah.
Is it in, is the notice in here?
It should be, yes.
I think the notice is in here.
All right.
I think it is a public hearing,
It is.
but
It is
you,
a public hearing.
you may want to refrain from making any public statements since it's an issue that's going to come before the
Before us.
board, but I don't see there's any reason why you couldn't
Get some
go.
information, why not?
It's worthwhile going to listen.
I think, I think they video, you
Will you
know,
be attending?
I think I might watch the video.
Video. That makes sense.
I think it'd be very interesting to go, but I can't make it. Community Preservation Committee, no report, just waiting for, the warrant, because there's a couple of community preservation funding requests on the warrant, so. Design review?
Yeah, they were, we had a meeting yesterday, there were 2 items, we had 2 new sign approvals. First one was on 439, on 151, for Fresh Roll LLC. Actually, the family is the owner of the Stir Fry on MacArthur Boulevard, so actually I'm looking forward to that happening. The other new sign was on 153 Commercial Street, and that's for RC Electric Contractors.
Plan review?
No meeting.
Okay. All right, so it's 7:10, so I'm going to open up the public hearing. There should be a public hearing notice in here somewhere. Thank you, sir. Okay, so Mashpee Planning Board, public hearing notice pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81T, and the Mashpee Rules and Regulations governing the subdivision of land. The Mashpee Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, March 4th, 2020, at 7:10 in the McCoyett Room at Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North, to consider an application by Bays Water Development LLC of 20 Red Brook Road, Massachusetts, Mashpee, Massachusetts, 02649, for approval of an 81-lot definitive subdivision plan of land consisting of 16.29 acres located on Rock Landing Road and Red Brook Road at New Seabury, Section 5, and identified on the Mashpee Assessor's Map as Map 116, Parcel 74, for a cottage development under the terms of the New Seabury Special Permit. Plans may be reviewed in the offices of the town clerk or town planner at Mashpee Town Hall, submitted by Mary E. Wagon. Mashpee Planning Board publication dates Friday, February 14th, 2020, and Friday, February 21st, 2021. At this time, so this is a public hearing notice, so just because we have people in the audience. So just to let you know, we first open it up to the project proponent, and they make a presentation. The board might comment. I go to the board, comments and questions. We hear from the town planner and the town engineer. Then I open it up to the public. I do it that way just because some of your questions might get answered by the time we go around the table and stuff like that. So everybody will be able to speak, and when you do, you'll come up to one of the mics at the table. We'll ask the project proponent to kind of move over and make room for that. And you make comments through the chair. You probably already know that. And we have to address your comments. Okay, so right now, I'll recognize the project proponent.
Good evening. For the record, my name's John Falacci. I'm the president of Bayswater Development, also the trustee of New Seabury 5 Nominee Trust, president of New Seabury Properties LLC. And we have tonight before you a definitive plan, which is located off of Rock Landing Road. That's where it'll have its access from. But it's kind of on the corner of Red Brook Road as you come into the entrance of New Seabury. I also have tonight with me Dave Crispin from BSC Group. He is the engineer, and he will be going in to summary of the calculations and answering some of Charlie's comments, which I believe you have received. And we'll get into the erosion. I think that was the bulk of the concern, but we're in agreement with Charlie that we need to have a detailed plan for that concern. Also, tonight I have Tom Fidella, and he is here. When we first brought in the plans to get accepted and have the hearing date set, there was questions about the special permit, and it's a unique permit. It's actually kind of way before its time. It's kind of cutting edge. And I thought it might be a good idea where there are some new board members to have a kind of a summary of the history of the permit and also the agreement for judgment, which was also requested at that time. So in the order, I would like to start with Tom and have him give a little brief history, and then we'll move on to David. We'll have a little Q&A about that, any history that you may have or the public may have on that. And so.
Just, Tom, before you start, does everybody have this in their packet?
In this blue folder.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate you getting that pulled together.
You're welcome.
Hey, Tom.
Hi. Notice I'm wearing my planner tie again. I haven't worn it since I retired.
It's terrible.
So this is cool. All right, so I put together this little history of the New Seabury special permit, and it is a very unique permit because it was a unique project at the time. As Cutting Edge have said, we're talking 60 years ago, and there wasn't anything like this that had been built at the time. It's cluster zoning, but there was no provision in the state statutes for cluster subdivisions. So when the
Can
project,
everybody hear him?
yes,
Just talk right into the
aimed
mic.
in the right direction.
That's a little better. Yeah, push it right in. Thank you.
I don't want to do that then.
No, somewhere in between.
All right. So, I mean, it was developed originally, it was developed by the Chase family. They owned half the town at the time, all the way up to what was the New Seabury Shopping Center, most of the land along Great Neck Road South, and even what's now the Mashpee Woodlands. But this particular area was developed subsequent to their 1940s, 50s development of Papaneset Village, which is basically an old-fashioned grid, small lot development, Papaneset Beach, I should say. In the early 60s, they brought in a guy named Emil Hanslet, who was very well known in the development field and had some great ideas. If you've read through the a little history I put together. He was well-known. He created what was called the Institute of Environmental Design as part of the National Home Builders Association. The project was different than anybody had seen, and it required a different kind of zoning and a different kind of permit. So what the town did, and by the way, you notice, I mentioned there that the Seabreeze date is 1962. That's when they named what they had done. A lot of New Seabury, Bright Coves, Pepinestad Island, parts of Summers Sea, and parts of Highwood were already developed before the special permit under the existing, or previous to the zoning, which wasn't adopted until 1961. And this was, in order to develop the rest of it, needed something other than standard lot zoning, because it consists of all kinds of golf courses and open space and all the rest. So, the town adopted a zoning provision, section F5 of the zoning bylaw, that essentially said, and again, this is where it's really unique, because you can't do this these days. It's not even legal. But if New Seabury, at that time it was Phil's Point Corporation, donated land to the town, which was what is now the town beach at South Cape Beach, which they not only donated the land, they built the road to it and built the parking lot, so that was all done by New Seabury. The deed would have a deed restriction attached to it that would specify how much development could happen on the rest of their land. And in this case, it was 1,240 acres altogether. So that zoning bylaw was adopted almost unanimously by the town, and at the time, the selectmen and the planning board were very favorably well, they like New Seabury. I quoted the planning board, you guys yourselves in 1962, imagine you're the planning board, right? New Seabury has given our town the type of prestige we very much desire. And I think in the last 60 years, I mean, there's no question that that's the high end of Mashpee, and that's the high end of the Cape. We've got Willowbend now, but New Seabury was the first, and it's the biggest. And by the way, there's a lot of talk about Mashpee Commons paying a lot of taxes. That's only because they never sell anything. New Seabury, by far, is the giant chunk of tax base in Mashpee that supports the town. So that was also important at the time, aside from the reason, the way the planning board and the selectmen liked the concept of the project and the zoning board, because since 1931, the town had been in receivership. When the Depression happened, the town all of a sudden couldn't pay its bills, and had been under the supervision of 3 commissioners in that receivership that controlled all the town's money. Any vote of town meeting, they could override, they could change the numbers on a money article, and they did that frequently. I didn't dig that up in my research here, but back when I was looking at town road articles way back, putting together a book on that, the town meeting actually voted in the 30s to take Rock Landing Road, to take Shore Drive, to take Waiting Place Road and Daniels Island Road. These commissioners said, no, you can't afford it, and they canceled that road taking. So it isn't just amount of money, it's articles like that. So the town was very much interested in the tax base this project was going to propose. Zoning article was approved in 1963. The Zoning Board of Appeals approved a special permit, which you've got as an attachment in the document, along with the zoning. And the special permit, you'll notice, doesn't have any numbers in it. It talks about a plan that they saw, but that plan was not required to be built. That was just an example of how it was going to happen. And what really controlled under that zoning bylaw, the development in New Seabury was the deed restriction I mentioned on the 1,240 acres that had the property broken up into 29 sections, And in each section under that deed restriction, which had to be signed off by the town because it was a party to the deed, obviously, and by the owners, for each of the 29 sections, there was a certain number of dwelling units allowed and a certain square footage of commercial floor area. So that deed restriction is actually the controlling document as opposed to the special permit under which, the project was permitted. And a deed restriction has a life of 30 years, can be renewed subsequently for terms of 20 years. And the New Seabury special permit, the deed restriction was signed and recorded in 1964. It was renewed in 1991.
Okay.
And was renewed again in, it's hard to tell from the documents, whether either 2006 or 2009, but it's good to, it's now good until 2026. So we're talking about 66 years, 64 years worth of deed restrictions being the controlling factor in New Seabury. Now, when you look at the provisions of the Section 5, F5, it says that the property that's covered by the special permit will not be subject to any of the lot size requirements, any of the setbacks, and because there were no height restrictions at the time, and they're essentially grandfathered back to that date, there's no height restriction in the New Seabury special permit area. So it's 0 lot lines, it's no minimum lot size, it's no height limit. They could build a 100-story building and it'd be legal under the permit, not that they want to, right? So the other thing that was going on at the time, way back then, was an interest on the part of the town, and then an interest by the town having the state buy Southgate Beach as a recreation area. Because that was a pending issue, and in 1971, there was a modification to the special, to the deed restriction done that provided that, with that potential taking in mind, that the last, 7 sections, sections 22, 23 through 29, everything that was over whenever Southgate Beach is now, was turned into one combined section, and they unified all of those square footages and the unit numbers, and said that if there's a taking, the units and the square footage would be proportionally split based on the acreage that was taken by the state.
Okay.
That was way back in 1971, and the state eventually did take Southgate Beach City Park in 1963, and that ended up changing the numbers because a lot of the units went with the permit. In 1971, the building inspector challenged the special permit. The town had adopted a new zoning bylaw. They brought in a consulting firm to give us a cookie-cutter zoning bylaw, which in effect is the same zoning bylaw you have now, although it's been amended many times. It was that format, still exists. And he basically denied building permits on a number of condo units on the basis that they didn't conform with current zoning. And the ZBA backed them up, and it went to court, and the town lost. The court said, no, this is a pre-existing non-conforming use, and they didn't use the term grandfathered or any things associated with a special permit, like it wasn't protected by the special. It's a pre-existing non-conforming use. So that was decided in '71, and project moves on. You have a letter from 1982, I believe, that's from Town Council Joe Murphy, to both the planning board and the ZBA. The question had come up whether or not if the lots were sold, whether or not the zoning still applied to the after the lot was sold. And he clearly stated that it was. So everybody that bought a lot in New Seabury in that 1,240 acres is protected by the terms of the special permit. And then in the late 80s, we had the In 82, 83, the state bought Southgate Beach State Park, so there was that modification to the numbers. And you have a table in there from 1991. Michael Grotzky, New Seabreeze engineer, was kind enough to put that table together. It's actually, attached to it, there are maps of every single section of New Seabury with the numbers of units
Yep.
that were permitted and how much had been built at that time. And you can compare that to the original deed restriction and see what happened in between because of that adjustment of the combined section. As I said, deed restriction was renewed. In 2000, New Seabury did, because it's separate from the town's authority, a environmental impact report for MEPA on the remaining parts of the project. And in 2002, based on the supplemental final environmental impact report and some of the issues contained in it, the Conservation Commission of Mashpee actually referred New Seabury project to the Cape Cod Commission. And you see what kind of problems that can cause because they're operating on a 1964 special permit and old zoning. And Cape Cod Commission all of a sudden tries to claim jurisdiction over something that you would think was grandfathered because it was done way before the commission was created. The discussions went on for a couple of years, and there was finally an agreement for judgment. In other words, the parties agreed to disagree and made some statements about what would be allowed. And in summary, there were, I believe, 8 areas of New Seabury that had yet to be developed at the time. Other than Section 5, which is where the project is you're talking about now, under that agreement, New Seabury is allowed to build 250 housing units. And through the years, many of those have already been built. You know, the Hillside subdivision next to the country club and a number of other areas, condo projects. And Section 5 was sort of one of the last ones you looked at, and you've seen Section 5. By the way, under the deed restriction, Section 5 is allowed to have 425 housing units because units have been moved over from the combined section. It was originally 25. And under the agreement for judgment, New Seabury basically lost half of those units. They agreed to only build 200 units in the combined section rather than the 425. And there was also a set of restrictions and descriptions of how they needed to be developed that was in a separate section of the agreement. But you have basically the legal agreement there signed. The last document there is the agreement, agreement for judgment. And so to sum up, as it applies to this section, this is basically the last portion, the last big portion of Section 5 to be developed. With the 81 units, it brings them up to 195 housing units, less than the 200. And keep in mind, going back to the whole permit history, there's no setbacks, there's no minimum lot size, there's no height limit, but that's not a subdivision issue. So that you have to keep that in mind and looking at what they're doing here. They don't even need there's no minimum frontage requirement. So I'll leave it at that, and if you've got any questions. Oh, by the way,
go ahead.
I forgot to mention the great news in 1969 and the selectmen annual report. The town has been freed. The town is now a free and independent town in April 1969 because that commission that used to control all the budget issues disappeared in April of 1969 at the request of the selectmen. And so since then, we've been our own town. We can waste money any way we want.
Okay, so when you reference this chart,
Yes.
it has all the sections.
Yep.
We're in Section 5.
Yep.
The 81 units are included in this chart.
81? Well, yes,
The 80
part of the 425 on
Yeah.
that chart, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. At the time that was done in 1991, nothing had been built in that area subject to the
So
200.
I have an extra copy of what Tom is talking about. Does anybody want this for their records, for fun? It's really good. If you're interested in this, I really thank you for pulling this all together.
Well, it's, this has been, I don't know how many
Don't lose
times,
this. This is history.
I don't know how many times as the town planner I had to answer questions
Yep.
about what the heck is this permit all about? And so I thought I'd do a
It's done.
history for you, and so if anybody's got any questions, you got all the answers in the little booklet there now.
Yep.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Nice job, Tom. And
Thank you, Tom.
Questions?
I don't have any questions about that. I know
It's a
that.
great summary of the history, and for those that are watching, or Tom, when he talked about the eminent domain taking and that there was change, just to be clear, the change was we lost our density.
Oh, okay.
We lost, significant density, and also with the agreement for judgment. And, but in the history, as a community, it's all good, because can you imagine a town on Cape Cod without a public beach? I mean, that would have a significant impact on the values of homes, to be in the only Cape town without a public beach. Would we like to have the land back? Yeah, but we're here today, and we are talking about Section 5 specifically. I don't know if you've had a chance to drive through, but we're not talking about, the high rises. They are cute cottage styles, ranging from 1,400 square feet to 2,300 square feet, which isn't that small of a home. But they are a benefit, typical of New Seabury, where a lot of them are seasonal homes. They're here for a couple of weeks to 10 weeks. There are some year-round, which is good. But that's, in general, the demographics worldwide today is, people like to have a seasonal home in a seaside community.
But there's nothing preventing people to use them year-round.
No,
Right,
no, that's
okay.
what I said. It's just, I'm just giving you the demographics. So the impact to the town is low, is what I'm suggesting.
If you look at census figures, there's about 10% year-round occupancy in the New Seabury, Papaneset area, so,
That's good.
there's no school kids, and
No,
they're
that-
really a positive.
No
in terms of
services.
tax base revenues.
And it's interesting, for the buyers, because a lot of them are downsizing, and they're looking for maintenance-free living, and, but a lot of them have lived in multi-million-dollar homes on the ocean, but now that they've got 2 homes, or maybe 3 homes, they want to just kind of simplify and enjoy life. And so even though the homes are small, they're not, it's not an affordable housing. We're competitive priced, but they are generating income as far as assessed value. With that, I'd like to proceed on with Dave Crispin on the engineering.
I'm going to stand over here.
Okay. So do we have these? Is this packet?
Excellent summary, Tom. You're probably wondering maybe why this is here. This is Section 5, the entire length of Section 5. I'm just kind of going to give you an overview of where everything is. This is the town well field right here. This is owned by the town. Phase 1. Stand by, stay clear. It is a separate land court parcel, but it's, Phase 1 was the first one, that was 2014. Phase 2 was up in this area, 2016. Phase 3 was 2018, is now in construction. Phase 4 is way up the other end, the other side of the driving range. And one of the purposes of this sketch, you said that went from 400 units to 200 units. It's a pretty good coincidence that the restricted space, whether it's a render, woodland protected open space, or recreational protected space, 49%. That's about half of those 400 units to get to 200. So apparently there was some rationale back there with that. So I'm not going to study on that too much more. That was the purpose of that. Where are we with phase four here? Red Brook Road is across the right end of the plan. Rock Landing Road is across the bottom. These are little crosshatched areas around the outside, and you should have a small one of these if you can't see this. Conservation restrictions. Permanent conservation restrictions. Thou shalt not touch, we do not touch. There's an opening in the conservation restrictions here. There's an opening in the conservation restrictions here. And there's one over here. From an engineering traffic point of view, bringing a new road in at that three-way intersection was not something I would recommend. That's where the current sales office is. If you drive in, you see a sales office, and there are 3 model homes there right now. The 3 model homes stay exactly where they are. We're building the lots around them.
Okay.
So the main entrance as you come down Rock Landing Road, entrance 1 and entrance 2, a loop road and a cul-de-sac. We've met with the fire department on this. We've met with the water department. Everybody's good with that. We know the fire trucks turn. This is your standard subdivision, standard cul-de-sac radiuses, standard street radiuses, fillets, all of that. And consistent with phases 1, 2, and 3, we've taken, which is a pretty excessive storm drainage design, and recharged the entire 100-year storm. What does that mean to the neighbors, if there are neighbors here? It means there's going to be no change in runoff coming off of that property, even though it's heavily developed. This section is a open basin. This end down here is subsurface recharge chambers. And we've looked at that pretty extensively. Charlie and I have gone a couple of debates, but the design hasn't changed. Actually, due to one of Charlie's comments, this system got a little bit smaller. So I appreciate Charlie's comments on that. I think that's kind of there is some, most of the site is fairly level. It slopes off to the back here. And this is where Charlie and I were talking about, grading coming off and maybe drainage coming at the abutters. The plan we've suggested is to build an earthen berm across the back of this to cause a temporary trap. For step 1, build that trap. Then cut the road in and drain the road into the middle. So we can certainly phase this. I think there's ways to do this. We're happy to accept a condition, I guess, is what we'd like to be, so we can finalize the detail of that construction plan. Maybe the first phase is just, looping the first part. Obviously, this would have to be a phase, and maybe that's a phase at the end. But we'll have to think about that, what the best way to do it is. This site is entirely sewered. There's a proposed sewer pump station right here. Everything flows down to the sewer pump station, and it gets pumped back up and back down and all the way to the treatment plant on the other side of the site, which has adequate capacity. All underground utilities. Am I missing anything? I think that's it now.
Well, I'll just recap a couple of things. So on the water system, we are going to be taking a dead end down here from Summersea, and now it's going to be part of the water system. So the flow will be circular, and it's not dead end. Let me get to the other side. And same with the further down Rock Landing Road. There's a dead end there now. And so now we're going to have what both fire and water department like to have is a circulating water flow in their pipeline.
I'll add one detail, John, that's Rock Landing Road, so we're bringing it up Rock Landing. The rest of this site comes in around from the other side, so we're literally going to loop that whole
Correct.
eastern portion.
Yeah. Going back to the erosion control, I'm in agreement with Charlie. It's a serious concern, and we need to address the issue. So we're going to be coming with detailed plans, and I'd like to be able to work it out with Charlie if the board would allow that. But before we cut the trees there, I'd like to put a berm on the top so we can stop the runoff before it even reaches the, embankment. And then leave that, but then have a plan, so once we do cut the trees, continue on with berms. And it's gonna be multiple things to take care of this issue. We're gonna probably loam the banking, seed it right away. Because, grass helps reduce erosion. Plantings, we may need to get some different products, that we can stake into the ground to help that. But besides Charlie, we have applied for an EPA permit stormwater, and what is it, NPDES? Yeah, thank you. Which we have to revisit back online. It's not the easiest site to navigate, but so we'll have a stormwater. I'm certified in stormwater as far as erosion control maintenance. And that is because we have had a difficult site before Phase 2. Basically, it seems like all our sites are high in the middle, so it's like trying to prevent runoff off a cue ball. Yeah. But today's technology and products, I'm confident that we'll address that and be able to avoid any issue. We used some of what we learned at Phase 3, where we installed temporary retention basins, so the stormwater recharged, didn't leave the property. And water can leave the property, but it needs to be clean. What you want to do is prevent silt. Naturally, right now, water leaves the property. It's going down a hill. But what we don't want to do is make a situation worse than what it was before. In fact, we try to improve that. And in Phase 2, that's what we eventually did. There is less water coming off of Phase 2 today than it did before we started building. And that's using gutter systems on the houses that drain right into dry wells. The road itself, catch basins going into detention basins, and with special soils, plantings to clean. Some of the products that they suggest or recommend, silt sacks they're called, you put them inside, actually can be dangerous because we seem to be getting storm events today that we haven't seen, some of us in our lifetimes. We've had two major ones. They were like 1,400-year storms if you did the calculations. They were very short. Mm-hmm. One was an hour. That was 2 years ago when we were building the athletic center. But it made the papers. Downtown Falmouth got flooded out. Yeah. I mean, cars were underwater. And then there was one a couple of years ago. It was only half hour, but it had the same intensity. And that's the problem, and that's what we have to address, is these very unusual storms, and you can't just say, oh, well, it's not going to happen again. It does, and you have to be prepared for it. So I'm in agreement with Charlie, look forward to working with him, and but we're going to have detailed plans. And so at this point, if you want to ask questions.
How come you call it Red Brick Road? Because Red Brick Road, if you look at the map, is further down.
It's that
It is, it's a very
Isn't that
short,
rock?
short part of the entrance to New Seabury. It's just about there to the split.
Yep.
It's very short.
so right here, this portion, this road right here, this is the entrance, if it continued back.
Right.
So when you come off of,
When you come,
is that Great Neck?
Great Neck
Great.
Road South.
Neck Road South.
Yeah, this is Red Brook Road. This short
Wow.
little piece.
Yeah.
So
Our
Red
sales
Brick-
cottage is actually 20
20
Red Brick
Red
Road
Brick Road.
address.
Yeah.
That's funny, it crosses the street. Usually they don't, when it wants to cross the street. Okay, another thing, I don't know.
Yes, but
Are you gonna put a fence around this like you've been doing the other sections? Because
Yeah, well, we gotta increase the landscaping size. We've got some natural, protected, in the Orenda wildlife in
Yeah.
front of the backs. So we're gonna have, better landscaping just from the natural, because we can't touch that.
well, I was asking about fencing. You know, okay.
Yeah, it's gotta be hidden. There's a chance that we are gonna fence it, because people,
Kind of, my point of view, it looks like different forts. You got a fort on this side with a fence and I don't know, it looks funny to me with all those fences.
yeah.
You know,
we gotta-
especially when you're from phase 1 and 2. You got a fence on this side, they have little property, but it looks like two different neighborhoods. It's not like one neighborhood, you know? I don't know, that's just my opinion, but,
The other is looking in somebody's backyard.
yeah, I can see that,
yeah.
you know, because those are the backyard, but, all right.
I have a, just for point of reference, there's two cut-ins there. Which is the current cut-in that's there right now with the,
The one right there, oh,
It's open, it's right here.
that's the one that's there
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So I can-
There's a temporary gate there.
Yeah, that one, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Dennis, anything else?
no, they look good. They're really nice. I mean, when you go in there, it really looks nice.
If everybody wants to take a tour of the models, we do have 3 models down by the sales cottage.
I have one more question.
We will keep the sales cottage entry here, but it'll be just for the models, the sales cottage, and we have a design center behind the sales cottage. So we will keep that opening until we sell out. And it's a good thing. For us, it's important to have the sales cottage.
Right there.
Right there.
This is
Go ahead.
for phase 3, the new road you put in. Are you gonna put a light there, or, you know, like when you go down, further down, you have the little house?
Yeah.
So people come down, they know they have to go farther over to turn in. The way that is, if I'm coming down, I could just cut right in where somebody's coming down this way to go out. Are you gonna put a little island in the middle of that?
Unfortunately.
This don't look wide enough to do that. That's what I'm nervous about.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we talked to the fire chief, and there's requirements, but we're probably gonna have a gate there, because people just, the illegal dumping, we caught somebody this Saturday, and it's been going on in the past. It's,
I was thinking of fire trucks too, like coming down there to go into there. They have to make a sharp turn if there was another car coming out. Could cause a problem.
Are you talking at the new entrances?
The new entrance, yeah, that's off
well.
of Great
down at
Oak.
Phase 3, it's designed for fire
Okay.
trucks. I mean, we've gone through the radiuses and so
I've been
forth.
sitting there the last couple of days looking at that, saying, when it's foggy here, somebody's coming out unless there's a sign saying cottages that's lit up.
Well, we haven't finished the construction down at that end,
Okay.
and so we're gonna be regrading, there'll be landscaping, uplighting.
Oh, good.
Unfortunately, Eversource,
They wouldn't let you move the poles, huh?
they added, what do we have now, 4 more poles?
Yeah, seen that. I was like, why'd they do that? 'Cause I
Very
called
frust-
them up and they said, oh, we made them do, some guy was talking to him. He says, oh, that's what they had to do. And I'm there, oh, okay.
Yeah. A little disagreement with them, but,
I don't blame you.
you know, that's not the way, what you wanna have at your entrance.
No, and they're ugly poles too.
Yeah.
That's it, that's all.
Joe?
Well, just looking at some of the emails, just two questions. One of them was, there would be a decrease in the water supply.
Actually, the water supply has got to improve because of the circulation now.
So you're talking about drinking water, right?
Yes.
Yep, so there's ample
You-
supply
I-
of drinking, high-quality drinking water.
Yeah, I believe you got a letter from Andy Marks of the district.
I never received one from Andy.
Okay.
No.
We met with Andy, and he had no issues, and in fact, very happy because it's improving his water system.
Yeah, the other concern was traffic. And
Did you see the comments that came in?
No.
I noted them to you in an email, but I didn't forward them the exact emails, but,
No, but that's all right.
So this is from Walter Vatarian, 25 Summersea Road. He's unable to come today.
yeah,
Please have the board consider the decrease in water supply,
yeah,
which we just addressed, drainage during storms,
that's what they seem to.
which I think
they were already talking
and the
about that.
increase in traffic.
Well, you know, you build a house, you're gonna have some increase in traffic. Percentage-wise, I don't see an issue with it, because if we have the gate at Phase 3, it would be open during the daytime. It would probably only be closed, because we have our athletic center there to be determined. But, so that's gonna probably alleviate some of the traffic that's now coming in here at this main entrance, because people in the Fells Pond community probably using that.
And you're already permitted for these lots,
Yes,
right? So it's, these just haven't been built. The traffic was already planned, it's already, the lots are already allowed.
yes.
Anything else?
Well said.
Okay, so we got another email from Lawrence and Arlene Rand. The proposal to build a subdivision of 81 cottages at the intersection of Rock Landing and Red Brook Road is both offensive and aesthetically, but is both offensive aesthetically as well as dangerous. The construction would take a beautiful bucolic wooded entrance to our community and turn it into a congested, overbuilt area devoid of peaceful, restful environment New Seabury was developed to represent. Talks about severe traffic congestion, overbuilding. There's some concern about the main entrance at New Seabury. The visibility, the main entrance for New Seabury and Papaneset Village would make leaving Summersea very dangerous due to poor visibility of traffic coming in both directions, which would likely be almost continuous. So,
Well, everybody can pick traffic. I mean, throughout history of any development, traffic. All I can say is, at the end of the development, when we're done, and we no longer have the sales cottage there, then there's one less entrance at that. So it's all continuous flow, either onto Rock Landing or down to the Pompanesett area.
do you feeling that this will improve the traffic in the area?
Yeah, right now, it'll remain the same. Again, percentage-wise, probably less. As I said, down at Phase 3, there'll be a little bit of alleviation of the increased traffic here through that entrance.
Okay. And,
Just one comment on traffic. All of the new houses, driveways focus in the center. None of them come onto the existing
Okay.
roads.
and you said something about landscaping. I mean, you don't have to give us the landscaping plan, but just give us a summary of what are the landscaping improvements you're going to be
Well,
making.
the landscaping on the inside will be typical of what we've been doing. And then on the outside, if we do have exposed fencing, both entrances will be well landscaped. I don't know if you remember before we started Phase 1, but there was that center island there, and it was all the big, great white pines, and we had to take that down so we could reconstruct the road, and now, I mean, it's just beautiful landscaping, and actually won an award. So,
Okay. I don't think there was any other emailed public comment. Okay, and I'll probably save the rest of my comments till after Charlie goes through his letter.
okay.
Jack?
I actually walked the whole property today. I did the whole loop, walked down the trail. The vast majority of it, especially on the backside towards Cape Holiday Estates, and this may go back towards Charlie, is fairly flat. The part where I found the steepest was towards the southwest corner, where it's very steep, where it comes off that hill, and I can understand why we want to do something with that. One thing I noted, and it's right near Lot 25 on your map, it's the last 3 units of Cape Holiday Estates up there in the southwest corner. And it's inside because it's all staked off right now. There's a white PVC, almost looks like a septic pipe coming out of the ground with a yellow cap on it. Do we know what that's to or what it's from?
Yeah, we have to, part of our agreement with the agreement for judgment, we have monitoring wells throughout the property.
Okay, so that's what that was.
Yeah.
The part where the current entrance to the sales office, where that's just going to be eroded, what are you going to name, what's going to be the street address for those houses? Because I see it's Azalea Lane on your guide here. Is that whole rotary there's going to be Azalea Lane?
Yes, the cul-de-sac road is Azalea Lane.
Okay.
It's very difficult to get a street name in this town.
And not duplicate it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good, all right, Joe?
Just a quick question, not about 5, but 3, with the entrance that's going to be on 3. There's been a lot of talk for years, it's going to be one-way, two-way. Do we know what's going to happen for traffic-wise down there? The
On
entrance, the phase,
of New Seabury?
the third, yeah, on Great Oak Road?
Yeah, then
Great
phase
Oak
three.
Road.
Oh, Phase
Great
3,
Oak,
no,
yeah.
that would be two-way.
Okay, just checking.
I have one more thing, sorry.
No, no, no.
The access that I took to walk around, that you probably did, is a very, very well-worn path that comes out of Cape Holiday Estates that leads out to Rock Landing. The way the stakes are, that path's going to disappear. I don't know, obviously, it's not your plan to create a pathway for it, but
It's
it looks
actually-
like it's been there for a long time.
It's actually,
Way.
that is the path you probably walk.
Right. Are you gonna leave it
comes
in
up-
place?
We're going to bring it up and bring it to the cul-de-sac so that they can come out and go down the sewer easement,
So
basically.
you're going to shift it a little bit so they can get by it?
They
Okay.
get all around.
Is
Yep.
it
Great.
an ancient way?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on it. Good.
Okay. Evan, do you have any comments or questions?
I have nothing additional, now that Tom's brought us to school on the permit, so I learned a couple things through the process. I did sit down with Charlie and John and David for their technical discussions, but I have nothing to add. I think everything at this point will come from the engineer.
Okay, Charlie, you gave us a letter, why don't you bring us through it?
Yeah,
Do you guys have a copy
just-
of the letter? Okay.
I'm sorry it came out so late this afternoon. I received the latest rendition of the plans about noontime today. And then I was in Mashpee this morning, had to go back from a meeting at noon in Rochester, went to a town hall meeting in Wareham at 3, and then had to go back and look at his information and get prepared to come here. So I didn't have an awful lot of time to get it out before that. First of all, I'd just like to say that we had 2 staff meetings with John and with Dave here at the town hall, and I thought rather than simply write up 3 or 4 pages of comments, that it would make sense if I marked up a set of plans. We sat around the table and discussed them. I think it helped because that way we had two-way discussion about certain things. We were able to get things taken care of right away. So that's why the letter that you have is short. Just 2 or 3 things, though, about this plan that I think it's important so that you put it in perspective with what I wrote tonight. The technical aspects of the plan, you've got because of the shape of the piece that we're dealing with. What happens, though, is that with the amount of small lots that you've got, and I'm assuming that this is going through John's mind as well, as it did on the first 3 phases, each of those 3 phases was clear-cut. And they've shaped it accordingly and did all of their utility work and everything in an area that was wide open so they could run wherever they wanted to go. If they do that here, my concern has been, and I'm sort of addressing it in a letter, is that that piece between that long straight road which parallels Four Seasons Drive, from that point toward Four Seasons is all pitched downhill and is relatively steep in 2 or 3 locations. If you strip that from all the vegetation at once and leave it sitting there without any sort of control, especially with the new grading, if you look at the grading plan, you'll see that they're adding elevation in certain places and pushing the grades out and then dropping it down. Without the proper confinement of that and the proper control of it while you're doing it, you run the risk of significant erosion, rills in it, washes and gullies that will head toward that. As Jack has alluded to, the southwest corner is the most prominent piece, but there are a couple of other pieces along the way. Even though they are separated from Four Seasons by that long, narrow strip of open space which can't be touched, nevertheless, you don't want sediment to go into that area as well, because if it's absolutely restricted from any activity, you don't want machines having to go in there and drag that material back out. So during the process, I'm hoping that we would be able to develop, and John's alluded to it already, that they would build a berm around that road to contain anything before they cut any trees. What we haven't discussed in any detail is whether or not that entire strip would get cut completely, or whether it could be isolated to a small area at a time, get the foundation skinned, get the slope stabilized, and then go to a next piece and keep that confined. Maybe that's something that we can do, although, as I've alluded to in the letter, there's only so much you can do under a subdivision plan. You control the design of the streets, you control the drainage in the streets, you control the pavement, but when it comes to the configuration of the lots and what happens in the lots under subdivision control, you're very limited as to what you can do. In this particular case, though, I think it's imperative to try and at least do something, even though you can't demand it. I hear from John that he's willing to work, and I think that between the two of us, we can probably resolve that issue. There were some other little things that came up during the course of the discussion with David about the drainage. He accommodated a couple of comments that I had, which hopefully have reduced his construction cost a little bit. I don't know if it did. But we did a couple of revisions on it. So if we can address the erosion issue and potential for problems there, that's the only concern that I really have. And so my letter sort of points to that, and I've put it into the letter that I feel that every other thing that we talked about has been addressed. There are 2 letters which Mr. Crispin sent to me, which detailed all of the comments that we had during our discussion, and I was able to go through those and put a check mark side of each one, so I'm happy with it.
Well, I mean, if you accept a condition, you know, that our engineer works with you to, you know, on a construction and erosion control plan, if you accept that condition on this decision, then you can have access to Charlie. So,
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
And as I said, I look forward to it. We had a similar issue at Phase 2. Again, it was a high site and then with very, very steep drop-offs. If you go there today, now that it's all done, built, we have a berm, we have catch basins, you know, surface grates that collect any water that does come down in a heavy rain, brings it into the detention basins. The gutters help. So I agree with Charlie and, you know, work with him. We won't clear cut until we have the plan set up. Unfortunately, you can't clear a lot. The lot size and the size of the houses just don't allow that. So we're going to have that plan in place and ready to go. But I would see the foundations will actually be part of retainage up there. So it's not just sloping down. And then there's going to be a need for retaining walls. And so collecting that storm water before it goes into hitting the retaining wall. But what you want to do is sometimes it's not just the volume of water, but it's the rate of flow that causes, it's the bigger issue. But it's going to take multiple things. It's not just one thing that will solve the erosion problem. It's going to be, as I said, plantings. Grass actually is a little bit better than natural wood, woodland areas, because it just slows down the rate of flow. But
Are you gonna finish phase 3 before you start this?
well, that would be my recommendation.
I know you're 4 houses in on phase 3.
We got
That's
more
what it looks
than
like.
that.
Well, no, I know you, well, you got the other foundations. I
Just
saw them
dropped it
pouring
all.
them today as well, but,
Just so you know, to share with you, for sales purposes and so forth, because what happens is if you start this too early, then it's a distraction from what you're trying to sell.
Right.
In phase 3. So, it won't start right away after approval.
So would the board kind of be willing to have a condition like that where Charlie is kind of
Oh, yeah.
approving the construction phasing and the erosion control?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Mary, one small thing that I
Yep.
failed to mention. John, am I correct that this shows possibly 78 lots rather than 81?
Right now.
Because of what's happening at the cul-de-sac?
Right,
Yeah.
there's, in the upper right-hand corner here, there are 3 lots that Charlie pointed out to me. Boy, those lot lines go through the existing building. So we've done that in the past by putting a note, building to be removed, but then the question was when. So we decided to take those 3 lots, and they're still in the plan, but they're not part of the plan. So when that building goes away, there'll be an A&R plan to create those 3 lots.
so the sales
So
office,
just to the right of the cul-de-sac, but
Yeah.
all of the access will be from the cul-de-sac and not go out onto Red Brook Road. But because the lot lines were going through the sales office and a couple of other things, I thought it might be an issue.
So will they be able to do that with an A&R?
Absolutely, because by that time, you will, if you've approved the subdivision plan, then you can modify lot lines anytime you want under an A&R. And they can adjust the frontage accordingly. They don't have any restrictions on that, so they can come back with the A&R with the frontage around the cul-de-sac.
Why would they have the A&R when they have a special permit? There's no setbacks, no...
Well, you have to create the new lot lines,
Oh,
Dennis,
okay.
to create
So
the
they're
3
creating a
lots.
Okay.
what's the building at the end of the common drive? I know the sales office is kind of opaque because it's covered by the green, but
That's
what is
our
that building?
design center.
Is that going to go away as well?
Yeah, what we'll probably do is utilize one of the model homes and set that up as the design center.
What address does that have?
20 Red Brook.
That's still 20, so that whole thing is 20? Okay.
All right. If there's no more comments, I'll open it up to the public. So I'm going to ask you gentlemen to kind of vacate that space, and while that's happening, I just want to note that we got an inter-office memorandum from Glenn Harrington, our health agent, regarding this matter on February 20th, 2020. The Board of Health approved the definitive subdivision plans for the cottages at New Seabury, Section 5, Phase 4, definitive subdivision at their regular scheduled public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that would like to come up and speak on this matter? Have any questions? Come on up, use the mic, your name, your address, and then your comment. Hi.
Hi. Mike McManus, work with Vacation Resorts International in conjunction with Cape Cod Holiday Estates. So we've got quite a few different questions.
Okay.
So there was kind of discussion, and we couldn't see the map from back there, but just trying to figure out what was kind of going on at Red Brook Road. There's a new cut-in area that kind of goes to a telephone pole and some utility areas. Is that an access road?
So, Mr. Crispin, maybe you can come up and help him with the map.
Red Brook or, excuse me.
Do you have-
Red Brook or Rock Landing?
Rock Landing, they do.
Well, the new cut-in area that you have is at the circular by Red Brook and Great Oak Road. You've got a little cut-in right here that goes into a telephone post, and you've got grass area cut, or trees all taken down.
I actually didn't
within the
notice that
last-
myself, yeah.
Oh, he's talking about up by the intersection, there was some tree removal work.
That's Eversource.
Yeah.
We had nothing to do with that.
Okay, so you're not cutting in a new road to make that a four-way stop instead of a three-way stop where we have it right now?
At the entrance of New Seabury, that's, what those trees, that cut in is, that's all Eversource.
Okay. Sure. And then the next concern that we have is the flooding on Four Seasons Drive. Because we do see water runoff for years now, and the whole Cape Cod Holiday Estates kind of property kind of runs down. So anything that they do behind us, you know, we're wondering, is that walkway path going to stay open? And then is there going to be a berm, enough of a berm to kind of catch all that runoff water?
So I'm going to defer to the project proponent to address that. You guys can take one of the mics, just take one of the mics.
So yes, the goal is actually to reduce the amount of water that's currently coming down and capturing it before, you know, as it is now, it's going onto your property. So what we'd like to do is capture as much as possible with some of the items that were previously discussed, such as retention basins, they call them rain gardens. The gutters on the houses will have dry wells for all the water coming down the downspouts for the gutters. And then the road itself will actually capture some of it. So this is your high point up here. So the road will intercept some of the water currently going down. So that will help. And then retainage, and then once it's all landscaped, as I said, if grass actually is a little bit better than natural woodland as far as retaining, slowing down the velocity of rainwater.
Yeah, just, I guess the concern that a lot of the homeowners had for us is that we've got this cottage all the way down to that cottage, and if you take out a lot of these trees, we're gonna be looking back into everyone, and if
I can't
the
take,
buffer zone for us is,
I can't take out any of these trees here. This area here is all protected. So this area, yes, but we're gonna need to do that work in order to put the earth mound to capture that water.
Charlie, can I ask you a question? All this drainage stuff, are those in plans that you've reviewed?
Yes.
Okay.
The details of what would happen between the proposed road and Four Seasons Drive and that, I think that's just generic at this point. There's some detail to it, but I think we need to go a lot further in terms of making sure that that runoff is captured, because once you strip that whole slope, you're going to have entirely different runoff conditions than you do now.
So that's what we're talking, that condition, is so that the town engineer is involved in that to peer review everything that's going on with the purpose of reducing the water going over to your properties. So-
That's also a requirement of the NPDES permit too, that they have to be compliant with that. So they have to actually prepare a plan that's compliant with that, keep it on file and so forth. So in this particular case, I think it's going to be incumbent upon them to do frequent checks to make sure that there aren't any erosion issues, because you can't stop every drop of water, and there may be some adjustments that will need to be made from time to time. Even if they build something, something happen. So it's going to be something that'll be ongoing. You just can't build something and forget it and assume it'll work. This is critical on that slope.
And that NPD, is it ES?
National Pollution Elimination and Discharge Permit. I think
So
that's
that's
the
from
right-
the EPA?
NPDES. It's the National Pollution and Discharge Elimination Permit.
Okay.
Five
And,
times
and
fast.
you can't get a building permit unless you have that? Is that what happens?
Any disturbance of 1 acre or more, you need to apply to EPA to get that.
So you have that oversight too.
Right, the only concern, I guess, that I keep hearing tonight is the key words that you kept saying where there's no setbacks. That we basically have
No-
we
no.
have the right to go ahead and do what we want. We don't have any setback rules that we have to follow.
That's just how the whole land was permitted back in the day. So our zoning, our current zoning bylaw setbacks don't apply, but I think if you look at these lots, I think they're aesthetically okay. I don't see them, I don't see the 100-foot building, right?
No.
You know what I mean, like.
Yeah, and a lot of this I didn't see until tonight anyways, and sitting back there, we couldn't see anything, so.
This is a Google Earth snap of phase one. It's the same footprint basically throughout 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that's what they're gonna look like.
And wasn't there open space associated with this?
Yes.
This
the-
whole, so it's kind of like you put all the houses kind of close together and you have open space elsewhere. To keep your infrastructure costs down, but also the impact on the land down too.
So today, I mean, it's very similar, as Dave just mentioned, Phase 1, 2, and now 3. And we have 80 people that bought. So people enjoy the setting of the houses and so forth, so.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess the only last question we really had to do was the New Seabury had the old walking trail. So is that basically staying in place? So I guess the way that I understand this green walking trail is this white area that you've got mapped off is going to switch?
It's gonna stay where it is.
Okay. It's going to be accessible.
So please use the mic, because I know people are going to want to hear this, so use one of the mics.
All right,
John.
I'd just like to just say here, where it's coming in through somebody's backyard, there's a chance that we'll relocate it so it's on the property line, and so it's not going through somebody's backyard.
John, but basically the path is going to stay.
Yeah, we don't have any intentions of moving it. It's for the majority of it, except for this area here, this lot 10, that's the only area that we would want to.
So people that are using the
Relocated.
path today will still be able to use the path.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You can take that color, yep. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to come up and? Okay. So, anything else the project proponent would like to add? Any-
No, I think we've flushed out, and I think, as it's been raised tonight, is the erosion, and we're prepared, and, we're confident that we can resolve any issue there and avoid any problems.
Anything else from board members? No? Anything else from you, Charlie? Do you want?
Just in terms of whatever condition you might write with respect to working with New Seabury on their erosion control and so forth, to be sure that you're not kept out of the loop. I think it would be appropriate that once things are sort of finalized, that at least a copy of what we talk about is presented back to your board. I'm your consultant, I'm not the approving authority, you are, so I'd like it to stay that way.
Okay.
So, the condition would be, approval conditioned upon the phased construction plan and detailed erosion plans are approved by the planning board's engineer with a copy provided to the planning board as approved.
Well, I
At
think
least so that you've got
you're
some-
trying to avoid the word approved by the engineer.
nah,
It wants to
I-
be reviewed by the
I would prefer
engineer.
that, we'll work together, and I'm not suggesting that every time they want to make a change that we have to come here. But once we get something sort of basically finalized, I think that it's essential that you have a chance to see it, comment on it yourself, and then give a final blessing. I
So-
certainly
so-
will work with them to do all that I
Yeah.
can.
So the plan is, so the phased construction plan and the detailed erosion control plan is submitted to the planning board for review and approval.
Right.
Should we set some type of time frame, like,
If you wanted it before, it can be cut, clear cut, for that area there. We won't be able to do any work until such time as the planning board has reviewed and approved that erosion control plan.
and are you talking about prior to any cutting in this phase or an area?
I foresee us having this resolved and before we actually start construction.
Okay.
I
So
don't
prior
have, I don't have too much of a problem if they wanted to start by cutting out the roads, because they can get those down to subgrade, and I think I heard John mention something about building a berm on the Four Seasons side of the road, so that will help protect that before they start any cutting of the lots in that area.
Prior to any clear cutting of any
So,
proposed lots?
It wouldn't require us to talk about anything or come back to here with the cutting of the trees within the limits of the road layout. I think we could just go about doing that. It's the area that would be to the west of that road that's of real importance. So that's what you'd be seeing at a later date. And I would suggest we just leave that open in terms of the time, because we don't know exactly when John would be in there to do that anyway. Just make it a part of the conditions of approval, that's all.
So I have, prior to clearing, to clear cutting any trees in the area of the
West.
proposed lots?
No, west of the cobblestone lane.
Of the proposed lots west,
West of Cobblestone Lane.
Cobblestone Lane's the name of the road.
Cobblestone Lane?
Yeah.
Not to apply to the cutting of the trees in the areas of the roadway?
Correct.
That's a great condition. Any other conditions?
Well, that's a mouthful.
Any other comments? So what kind of a vote do we need to give?
We've got to close the public hearing
Ah,
first.
okay. Anybody else?
But are they going to come back, though? They haven't settled the drainage or that,
No, I'm satisfied. The final plans that I got today, and which I assume was submitted to Evan, are the final plans. So you could, once the 20-day appeal period is run, then you can sign those.
all right, so I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is anybody else, everybody's fine? They don't need to speak? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, so it would be approval of the 81 lot definitive subdivision plan of land consisting of 16.25 acres located on Rock Landing Road and Red Brook Road at New Seabury, Section 5. With the following condition, that the phased construction plan and detailed erosion control plan is submitted to the planning board for review and approval prior to any clear cutting of any lots proposed west of Cobblestone Road, not to apply to the cutting of trees in areas of the proposed road layout.
Can I make one clarification on
Yes.
your language? The western portion, this is the western portion of Cobblestone Road, this is, I wouldn't want it to get confused to be from here west.
All right, so the proposed lots in the
Right, yeah.
western portion of Cobblestone Road. Anybody want to make that motion?
So be.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
One meeting. I think that's a record.
Thank you very much.
That really shows that when you're prepared and you work with our engineer and you listen to our preliminary comments, that it works. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. That was good working with you. I appreciated that myself.
And that worked out, Evan, you kind of going, having the meeting with everybody? Yeah, that's good.
We're just fine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Wow,
Hi, Tom.
But it doesn't get easier. It really doesn't get easier.
I know.
Like people.
All right, so, review and discussion regarding, update of the local comprehensive plan. I'm continuing to work with, Evan and Joe regarding the last little questions about the survey. And remember, everybody, take pictures of, houses, different types of housing around, or at least compile an address list, because that will take a while to get our preference survey going for the fall. For those items, is there anybody that has anything to report?
The only thing that bugs me slightly, maybe just not bugs, not the right word for it, but there's a couple of questions in the survey that I'm not sure that, I scratch my head as to why we're asking, like, why do you attend town meeting? I don't know if that's irrelevant. Do you vote at town meeting? I'm not sure if it's relevant. There's a few questions we could probably just dump, and I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but.
Well, my goal is to shrink it as much as possible, because you're gonna lose people with ADD off the top, but, I mean, I'm not saying you should lose that.
I'm just curious what we're looking for with those questions. I think there's 3 or 4 I saw that just, I know, you know, what we
I've
want
been
to
on-
get.
I think I just want to get it over with and get it done.
All right.
I just. It'll be fine. That's not going to muck up anything.
No, because
Yeah.
People might fall asleep going through all this stuff. I have something, just, if you guys are still open to it, I did speak to Patrice the other day, if we do want her to come in and speak to us.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, if you guys want to.
So what's on our agenda for, well, we have an A and R in 2 weeks. Anything else?
We'll just, I guess, be signing, no, the appeal period won't be over, so.
There's no rush,
nothing.
this is gonna be an ongoing thing, so whenever.
But it might be good if she can come in 2 weeks because we have a light agenda.
Yeah, the 18th is a good time.
All right, cool.
And I know she has a report,
Yes.
so,
She actually had it in her hands, and I was gonna throw it out, so good timing, I came in there, so she still has it, so that's good.
try to get it to us ahead of time.
Will
Ask
do.
her to, yeah.
I will ask her.
Because, I love to read that.
Hey, you do.
I love it. Anything else? Oh, we have a letter from the town manager to Cape Cod Commission. Did we put it in here?
I did read it.
She should be
It's
in
in here
there.
somewhere.
Okay.
With the correspondent?
I think it's under correspondence. So anyways, the town manager did write a letter to the Cape Cod Commission. Oh, it's like the 5th page.
Yeah.
Dated February 26, 2020, asking for funds to be kind of released to the town for these purposes. I think, if it's okay with you guys, I'll just keep, Rodney kind of updated exactly what sections of the plan we want to spend money on. That's all. I just don't want it, when I read this really closely, I didn't want people to think that we were going to spend money on transportation, because we decided the transportation
Yeah, we don't-
section we weren't going to.
So can I just have a question from watching the meeting on Monday? So we have a possible 150 from the commission, then we also asked for a potential one, was it 150 from the town as well? Is that, if need be?
The board voted months ago now to set the value at 300.
Right. We
Right,
boosted
just to make sure we had enough money
Yeah.
before we had a defined scope. So then we knew we had commission mitigation money, so we requested 150 out of the 153 we had. So an article was submitted for the balance of that 300, that if we decide at a future point to pursue or not to pursue, it's held in place in the warrant.
Got it.
So it's held in place of the warrant, so are they going to put it on the warrant?
I reported on this to the board on Monday and told the chair that we have yet to define firmly scopes of work, and the planning board hasn't decided whether or not they would request the board of selectmen withdraw it or keep it on the warrant.
I think we should ask them to withdraw it at this time.
Yeah.
until we spend all this money.
Yeah, because I don't think we're gonna get to it this.
It's not gonna be a year. Yeah, if we go for
I
that
don't
much
want
money
it
in
to be
1
an
year, it's gonna
issue.
be a problem.
You're right there.
So, all right, so do you want me to write a quick memo to the chair saying?
That's fine.
Put that one on hold until, I think we're going to do good with just the 150.
Just one thought is, we haven't received notification from the commission that that 150 has been approved yet.
Good point.
Everybody told me that it was going to be easy sneezy.
I'm just, my only thought is, in the rare event that they
God
say
forbid it doesn't.
no.
Yeah.
All right, I'll follow up with Christie Senatori.
And just
And if
just
I-
so
if I-
that
if-
we prematurely withdraw the article, that would
Yeah.
give us the funding.
All right, and I'll figure out what's the deadline for
Good
the
thinking.
withdrawing the article. Everybody says it's easy until it's not.
Well, technically, you can withdraw the night of the meeting, right?
Right, but it might be a battle to get it on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't want to go through the exercise if we don't have to.
But I agree,
That's-
the
Okay,
check's in the mail, I'd rather have the check in my hand.
Can always return it.
right, but, okay. So I'll check with Christie Senatori if this is enough and what's the process on that, and then follow up with an email to Andrew, with everybody CC'd. I know everybody enjoys my memos, so. All right, anything else?
I had just one item to discuss in the survey.
We already voted and closed the survey.
Oh, this isn't about
Okay,
questions.
right.
This is a methodology question that I mentioned before about how we're defining open space. My calculations, we have 12,381 total parcels in the town. 970 of those are conserved in some fashion, okay? But I also included things like beaches, and I don't know if we need to be including things like beaches in how we're considering open space.
Yeah, because it's protected,
So
yeah.
those total, the total acreage of those 970 conserved parcels is 6,538 acres, which equals 47% of the total land area of the town. But it doesn't quite align with the 52% that was in the previous survey. I think the previous survey said 52% of the town is developed, has been developed, or has been permitted for development. So we're looking at then the 1,000 acres that they said was left to be developed represented 7% of the town or something like that, but 47 plus 52 is, do the math for me, 99%?
Missing a percent.
So the previous methodology doesn't align with how I'm calculating it, so I just wanted to be okay with the board that, as
Well,
long
did
as
you-
I'm clear with these numbers.
Did you run it by Tom Fudala?
Well, that's the thing. When I spoke with, I have a feeling that there was some parcels picked and chosen from the assessor's database. I just queried the full database. So, when I spoke with the assessor on this, Tom had previously just requested a list of all the conserved parcels and then picked and chosen what he had felt applied.
Let's run it by Tom.
So that methodology is
Yeah.
not going to be very consistent, what Tom had historically felt should apply and what it should not apply, so.
Since he was the one that came up with the numbers, I think you should just shoot him a quick email and just ask him how to resolve that issue.
So,
And
and
I'm-
I'm happy to do that, but when we're looking, that's a difference of, 6% of the land area
Right.
that isn't necessarily accounted for. So I will speak to Tom.
Yeah, because the board
But I just wanna make sure-
authorized me and you to settle it.
So I just want to report on that
Mm-hmm.
and figure out methodology for how we're defining what it means, because I just want to, from a scientific perspective.
My problem is I can't really have a valuable conversation about that because I don't know how Tom did it.
Well, that's exactly where I find it to be difficult myself, so
So do you want to contact Tom, or do you want me to?
I'm happy to contact Tom.
Okay. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, ask him and go through what you did. I mean, I'm fine, if we have to get to the point where it's an estimate, it's a,
Yeah, essentially what I'm saying is, I
Yeah.
don't think we need to be married to the number,
Don't think fact.
from the previous survey, because I can justify the numbers that I've come up with here. But I will engage with Tom and then come back.
yeah, because I'm sure that somebody is gonna read the previous question and say, how did, we went backwards on a number,
do you
how could
explain
we
this?
do that?
Right,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
and that's it.
Anything else? I don't have anything for the chairman's report. I'm sorry, was there anything else for the local comprehensive plan? I don't know. I know we're still writing up the scopes of work for the RFPs and reading our chapters, right?
We skipped one item in new business.
Oh, what was that?
We skipped the voting for the,
Oh,
on the new business. You gotta set a public hearing.
And if I may,
yes.
I'd like to suggest we wait to set a public hearing date, because I met with the selectmen on Monday night at their meeting to discuss our proposed zoning articles for solar. And they had, two selectmen in particular had issue with how we opted to deal specifically with large-scale ground-mounted facilities, and would like to meet with myself and members of the board. I've set a meeting for this Tuesday at 5 PM, so I'd like to do that with a member of the board or
What?
two.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. All right.
Don't hurt yourself.
Well, one step at a time. All right, so they had some questions.
They had some questions. Ultimately, I don't want to pursue setting a public hearing date because there's
Right.
the potential that the articles could drastically change. And so once I get some clarity around what that could look like, we'll be able to know exactly what we need to be setting public hearings for.
Yeah, so what I've been emailing Andrew, and I'd like to have a workshop like we did with the accessory apartment. So, I'm sorry, so what was their concerns again?
They want to avoid incentivizing large-scale ground-mounted solar to avoid the clear cutting of trees on large parcels.
But there's some question as to whether the town can do that.
Yeah, there's not really any case law that informs us how far we can go with reasonable restrictions. The way a lot of communities have dealt with this is through overlay districts and saying this X, Y, Z number of parcels, you can accommodate this type of use by right, but only in these parcels, on these parcels. We could explore an avenue like that. But ultimately, I don't know how far we can restrict the use.
Right, because there's a state statute that it was your impression that you conveyed to us that we can't prevent these large scale.
You cannot prohibit solar energy systems, you can only reasonably regulate. But it's really untested as to how far reasonable restrictions can go. So that's the dialogue that needs to happen.
And we were going to contact town council about that.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So anyways, I drafted these questions up to send to town council. I mean, did the Board of Selectmen want to prohibit the clearing of wooded land for installations?
Essentially, my takeaway was that if possible, the town should not allow large-scale facilities
At all?
at all.
Okay.
Unless it is already a disturbed parcel.
Unless it's already
That
cleared?
was it, yeah.
Okay.
That's
But we
that's
think
what I
there
heard.
might be a conflict with that the state statute
Yeah, how,
prohibits
Yeah,
a town from doing that.
exactly.
So we,
So what I heard from the chairman of the selectmen was essentially, I think we agree that there's a vulnerability here, but what has been proposed is an overcorrection. So that's their opinion. So
Yeah,
we need to
yeah.
find
yeah.
the balance.
yeah. Yep, there's this unanswered question about what's better long-term for the environment, the trees, and you brought this up, the trees or the solar panels? Because solar panel farms, you cut down all the trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're generating sources of energy, but in the process, you're taking away from the environment the ability to absorb carbon dioxide, which is one of the issues that everybody hollers about for climate change.
Right.
So But one thing I suppose, you know, it happens in every zoning bylaw, is that it gets sent to the state for approval.
The AG, yep.
So if there's anything that is really contradictory, then I think they'd probably highlight that and say, no, this section is not allowed. If you can be overly cautious and still keep it under the regulation, it's something to consider maybe, I don't know.
If that happens, do you know, like, let's say we had this, like, subsection that had this in it. When the AG looks at it, can they pull out just a subsection?
I think they can.
Right, like, so if we put something in there that was uniquely numbered, had everything else that we already had, but put in some of these thoughts that the Board of Selectmen, you know,
Right.
are leaning towards, I think the AG has almost like line veto.
I've seen replies come back from the AG's office on some zoning things where they have said the zoning article as submitted has been approved, except for, and then they have
Okay.
specified
They put it
certain
down.
things.
All right.
Yeah.
You got some of them written here tonight. There's some zoning articles.
Yes.
Like section A.
Yeah.
They pulled out section A.
Yeah, all right. So do you guys want to go through this now?
Not me,
These
but-
questions to town council?
The only thing I would suggest is remove the word how in front of questions 1, 2, and 4, and just.
Just can?
Just can. When
Well, I
when
didn't
I read
like-
the question as how can, it almost sounds like we're looking for a way to do it, where I'd rather know if we're allowed to.
Okay.
That's why we go to the
Yeah.
attorney, so remove the word how.
I agree with that.
But I have no problem with these questions.
So,
I don't either.
Okay.
No, they can
I
find
like
it
the
out.
Jack, that's a good idea.
Besides that, yeah.
so we need to see if David Whedon and Andrew Gottlieb has any additional questions and send those right in.
Okay.
to town council. I was talking to somebody at work today about this a little bit, and they said that there are some, and I don't know if this is true because I haven't looked up, but some towns have clearance bylaws, so it covers everything. That no project shall clear more than 75% of the lot. Have you ever heard of that?
Not specifically.
Yeah, they said just have one that applies to everything in town. I don't know. Okay. All right, so is there anybody from the planning board that wants to continue to work on this with the Board of Selectmen?
I will.
Okay. Anybody else? Because I'm willing to do that, too. Okay. All right, so you have a tentative date,
Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday,
which is Tuesday, the
10th,
10th?
at 5 PM.
Okay. I can't be there till 6.
And I'm already going to be at town hall. I'm going to be here already at that time, so that works out for me.
Okay, but is it a conflict for you?
At 6?
Yeah?
No, it's not a conflict, but I'm already going to be here at town hall.
Okay.
I've got a meeting
All right.
already scheduled.
And I think we have to note, I do want it to be a publicly noticed hearing of some type, a workshop or something like
On
that.
our agenda.
Something that gets posted with the town clerk and is in an open meeting, so if, you know, I very rarely do, the only closed-door meetings I do is with town council. You know, you can have it up in the selectmen's room and just somehow get it posted in a public, you know, if people want to come, they can come with a 48-hour notice.
But we would have no quorum of the planning board or the board of selectmen. So I don't know who to post an agenda under. My thought was to engage with a non-quorum of the board and the 2 individuals from the selectmen
Right.
who express it, so we can get a grasp of
Right.
their issues and then come back to the full board.
We can have a workshop, the town of Mashpee is having a workshop, just something that's posted, that it's a meeting that people can come to, whether they're recognized or not, whatever. I emailed Andrew about that, and from his response, he agreed. So,
I will
Yeah.
post any agenda that the board determines necessary. I'd still like to engage with Andrew to understand his questions, so I can bring recommendations to the board.
right,
That's good enough.
but we had a workshop with the accessory apartment thing, and it worked out really well. And I know we had a quorum, but it avoids those questions later on, you know, why wasn't the public notified? If we post something publicly, it's notified, even if it goes on the town calendar, you know. So,
So am I posting an agenda for the planning board?
no, you'd be doing a workshop.
All right, so, okay, I think,
Yeah.
okay,
Just saying there's a workshop.
There's a workshop on the solar,
okay.
you know,
That sounds good.
and that way, when we, you know, when the Board of Selectmen or this board, you know, engages in a public meeting, we can report on it. And there won't be people saying from the audience, you know, how come we didn't know about it? Well, it was publicly notified.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
And, oh, so that's, yeah, I can't get here till 6, because I have a meeting between 3 and 5 and already. Hyannis. All right, so, and can you put that form in to town council?
Yes,
And can town council call in at 6?
I've already requested he do so.
Okay, all right. Charlie, you want to come?
If you want me
No,
here, I'll be
I'm
here.
only teasing. And I think that besides everything else, it was just this piece.
Yeah, they were very satisfied with, the small scale and roof mounted applications, but just general concern with how we're gonna deal with the large scale stuff.
Okay.
So,
But I mean, they didn't have any problem, they had a problem with, okay, no, forget it, I get it. All right. Where else are we? Is there anybody else that wants to make a comment on that? Dennis, you got out of it.
Was that?
You got out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know when the warrant closes? Like, how much time do we have to do this?
I don't know when it closes, but we should have some time.
Can you find out?
Sure.
Okay, because that will, you know, we might want to meet
More than once.
more than once, really quickly, get those changes in, and then boom, we're done. Was there, now in here was all the, so we submitted a zoning bylaw, but there was also some road takings?
So the road taking articles that were submitted are a request for fundings and authorization for the selectmen to lay out the roads. So there are no plans yet. The authorization is to, for $5,000 to have the selectmen draw the layouts. And then at October town meeting, we'd be reviewing and approving those layouts. And I was gonna give you an update specifically on the Oldham Circle question. I don't know if you wanna take that now or under my update, but Oldham Circle, this was with the retaining wall near Katuitt Road that looms over. The covenant hasn't been released yet on the roadway covenant hasn't been released due to this retaining wall. Tom Fidel had written to the board stating that, you know, this is an issue that the DPW would inherit if not rectified. So I did notify Catherine of that issue. Catherine has reached out to the petitioners to discuss the issue at hand and make sure that they know that there may be a request for additional funding in this town meeting article. So instead of 5,000, it would be 5,000 to lay out the road, plus any dollar value that would be necessary to rectify the issue. So that's,
They determined that.
Catherine wants to figure that out.
Oh, boy.
So we won't have any laid out road profiles to review or make a recommendation to town meeting for the spring. That would be in October, because the articles are just authorized to the selectmen to have them drawn.
Okay. All right, so
And Oldham Circle they're working on rectifying it with the petitioners.
so we don't have any plans to look at?
No,
Do we have anything that we have to vote to recommend?
no, not for road taking articles.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah, it's all funding requests to draw the profiles.
And so when Tom submitted those comments, did he give them to you?
You gave them to me.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, so that's that matter under new business, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're under board meeting committee reports, environmental oversight committee.
No meeting.
Oh, yes. Greenways, footbridge, no meeting. Historic District Commission.
We just had a meeting couple of weeks ago, gotta give us a year. No meeting.
Okay. Military Civilian Advisory Council.
When's that happen?
Hoping to set a meeting in March.
Okay.
God knows.
You know what? I think we all should go to that.
I would like to go to that, see what happens
I'm
there.
getting lots of emails from them, but they're having difficulty
Do you
setting
meet on the
meetings. They're
base?
not canceling them.
Do they need a place to meet? They can
Oh,
come
no, they've got
here.
a beautiful headquarters they can meet at. They just keep canceling them.
Is that Otis?
Yeah.
All right, Oldham Circle, we just talked about it. Okay. So we got some public notice from the AG's office for Articles 26, 27, 28 from the Mashpee Fall Town Meeting. I think that was the accessory apartment.
Accessory apartments.
Yeah. And they approved them. They used a special provision, right?
That's not 100% accurate.
Okay. Did they approve
They
them?
suspended the authorization, the review for 90 days. Because when I
Oh.
was preparing our Form 7, which is our submission to the state that shows we complied with all applicable regulations, the planning department didn't notify our neighboring planning boards, which we are required to do. So they suspended the review of our 90 days, and we had to advertise it in the paper that we didn't notify Barnstable, Falmouth, and Sandwich.
Okay.
And it's after 21 days after the publishing of that notice, they'll continue their review, so.
Oh, okay.
That happens at the end of next week, we should be all set, so apologies for the administrative error on our
Yeah.
part. So they
'Cause-
have not yet approved the articles, the zoning articles. They've suspended the review of the zoning articles due to that failure in notice to the neighboring planning boards.
So you've to send it to the neighboring planning boards, DHCD,
DHCD, Cape Cod Commission,
the newspaper.
the newspaper, and that's it.
Okay. All right. And do you do
And the
that
public hearing
like, do you do that like by emails?
No, you have to do it in mail. You have to send a letter.
In the mail, and do you have to send it, does that mean you have to send it certified?
We don't have to send these certified. I send like public hearing notices certified, but these
Okay.
don't have to go certified.
All right, is there anything else in this correspondence list that anybody has a comment on?
That's the January thing there about the discharge monitoring report for Southgate Village.
If you remember, Southgate Village just,
That just looked strange.
It
to me.
does.
they just upgraded
They
their
upgraded, and they
plant.
said we would have a bump.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, remember?
It is a bump.
so they haven't grown enough, I guess, like bugs, bacteria in the system yet to adequately treat,
It's
so.
just not working.
Well, they just
correctly.
upgraded the plant.
Yeah.
They just finished the upgrade, so what they noted in their report was that they just need time to grow I think they used the term bugs.
Okay, I just saw the number, and the number just,
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might have mentioned it last
I did.
time, yeah.
Yeah, this was expected.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else?
Come on, Dennis.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
That was pretty good history.